This is Sam McBride. I'm here with Kristen Holstrom, and we are Queens Off the Clock. Today, we are going to be diving into the Amy Bradley case, which, if you haven't seen it on Netflix, it's a three-part series. Highly would recommend watching that after you watch this or before you watch this, doesn't really matter. But this is about a young woman who vanishes from a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean, and there's no security footage. It was way back when, so bear with us. The security footage wasn't as big of a thing back then, but there were no real confirmed sightings, at least initially. No body, just a bunch of questions and a lifetime of grief.
It's been 25 years since this woman, Amy, went missing while she was on a cruise ship with her family. I mean, imagine your dad wins this awesome, work incentive. You get to go on a cruise, you get to take your kids, and you don't come home with one. And there are just so many questions. And this year it hit the 25-year mark of how long that Amy has been missing. We were back in the 90s, late 90s when she went missing. And, that was a little bit more of a time where our movements weren't being recorded at, every stoplight or every time we open a door on a cruise ship or leave a hotel in Vegas, get an elevator. Now everything is recorded. But this wasn't a time where that wasn't necessarily the case.
Yeah, and our heart, I know I can speak for Kristen in this, but our heart really goes out for the family. When you're watching the documentary, they're still very actively involved in the case, and it's extremely understandable, and it's still a missing persons case. And I really commend the family for just all of their efforts to still push forward. It's really an unimaginable circumstance for me, and I think it's all of our worst nightmares. So I just wanted to say that our heart really goes out to them and their family for even just having to experience something like this.
Yeah, her
If
whole family, like her
Yeah,
mom, her dad, even the way her brother still talks about her. Um, I was watching a clip on it was something on YouTube, but I think it was a clip from I think it was actually Barstool Sports that the clip was on, and he basically was saying that because of what he's had to live with watching his parents grieve over Amy, for the last 25 years, that was a primary reason that he never had kids himself. And that kind of really, that's like you feel it in your heart because that it is such a tragic and it's such a sad story. And I'm still hoping that one day that there is some answers for the Bradley family at the end of this.
me too. Certainly, I think that anyone that's really watched that show probably feels the same way. But again, it's on Netflix, and it is quickly rising to the
It was number one over the
yeah,
weekend. Yeah,
yeah,
it was number one. And I want to say there was 3 or 4 episodes. I think there was, yeah, 3 or 4
that's a three-part series, and
three-part series.
essentially it's covering reopening kind of the facts and a cold case, at least is kind of the story. And as you kind of watch through the different parts, you'll see that it kind of opens your mind to different potential theories. There are different obvious issues, suspicions with crew members, some very potentially nefarious things that could have happened, which are concerning and we'll kind of get into. And there's just a lot of loose ends, which has made Kristen and I's head spin, because it's just different people looking at it from different angles and figuring out what potentially could have happened.
Yeah, if this case doesn't get your mind spinning, I really don't know what would, because the amount of unanswered questions and like lack of physical evidence is so crazy in this case. Like, we don't have a body, we don't have a weapon, we're not completely certain on the time period because on the cruise ship the people that are monitoring the cruise, and they're only tracking when people are using their key to get in their room. They're not doing that to leave their room, and they're also not doing that if, say, I'm coming home to the room, I can't find my key, so my husband opens the door. If nobody's putting the key card in, then there is no tracing of anything to do with time. So we have no weapon, we have no body, we don't even really know of multiple accomplices. We have a couple ideas of people that have been investigated, but we have so much unknown.
So let's get into it. So when you go into the first episode of the three-part series, it's titled Vanished at Sea. And so we're kind of first looking, Chris and I are talking about this case, we're looking at the timeline. And so we see that Amy is at a club, she's dancing, she's using her key card at around 3:40 a.m. Her brother is the last person to really see her, short of I guess her dad who saw her legs early in the morning. And then there's a very short window of time between 5:30 and 6 where she's gone.
Yeah, and
And
Amy's a 23-year-old woman too, for for anyone listening, that yeah, she was a young, I believe she was graduating college. I believe she was right on track or had just graduated college.
yeah, and one of the more stressful parts for me in watching the show, at least initially, where you really just felt for the family, is the family's attempts to find her. And it sounded like initially, I know the cruise ship is saying that they didn't do anything wrong, but initially they're not really changing any of their protocol, right? And so I'm like on the edge of my seat wanting to yell at people for this poor family. You know, everyone's continuing on with their cruise. And I think there was someone even in the documentary, no offense to him, but he's kind of like, well, we're doing all we had to do. Everyone else is on vacation. And you're like, yeah, but
Oh,
no,
that made my
this
that
is not okay. And what do you mean everyone's still on a vacation? You'd think that, you know, people have empathy, okay? And if everyone on the ship knew, maybe some other evidence, especially around that time, could have potentially been brought to light. And that's what's so frustrating, seeing how
for
long of a
sure.
gap it's been since it was in the 90s. It's kind of hard to go back and quote unquote solve it, but cruise ships are scary. I'll tell you
No,
that.
and that's one thing. Like, I've been on a couple. I haven't been on one in a long time, not since I've had kids. But you don't realize kind of how sketchy and how dangerous they can be until you start watching, these things. And then you're like, okay, that's more common than it appears to be, right? And for everyone listening, these are our speculations. These are our thoughts. They are not facts. This is just Sam and I sharing with everyone and you guys sharing with us, just things that may could have happened. Anything we say is not necessarily factually documented. They are just our beliefs, our assumptions, our opinions.
And so when we look at opinions, the way that the series goes, and I'll probably continue to be a broken record on this, is that as an audience, you're geared towards believing a theory based on the facts presented. And so Netflix does a good job of kind of breaking that up, probably for viewers to continue to stay interested. So, like, after watching the first episode, I kind of took a pause and was like, okay, what are the theories? And I think the first episode was a lot more geared to initial theories that she maybe fell off the cruise ship or maybe jumped from the cruise ship. And I know that the family vehemently disagrees with that, but that was the initial theory. So just kind of getting into that, what were your thoughts on that, Kristen, after watching just the first part without getting into anything else?
Yeah, it was obviously when you hear someone goes missing on a cruise ship and that I think they had said, she had been drinking quite a bit that day. But she was also someone who, was going through her party state at college. So I don't necessarily think 7 beers may or may not have been, intoxicated to the point that they would fall over. I don't know. But I initially was thinking that that was a possibility. But what got me to stop thinking that was a possibility was that the rail on the side went up to approximately, I believe it was like her chest if she was standing up. Her brother actually had it and he was obviously significantly taller than she was. But if a rail goes up high, the protective rail, it would be pretty difficult to fall off unless you were dancing on a table on the patio and you were, had a few drinks and the boat's moving. Then I guess you could think that that was a possibility, but we have no evidence that any of that was going on.
It also seemed like the sliding door was open, which was
Well, she was a smoker. So her dad claims that he saw her for the last time or part of her on the balcony. He thought she was smoking and it was 5:30 a.m. Before that, somebody There was a witness that said that they had last seen her in an elevator with the guy that they referred to as Yellow. He was the lead singer of the band that the cruise ship had employed and that was providing the music talent for that night. So there's discrepancy in what was the actual last time that she was actually seen. Was it in the elevator with Yellow approximately around the 5 a.m., 6 a.m. mark? Or was it, her dad, did he really see her? And was she smoking on their patio at 5:30 and then 6 when he gets up to go find her, she's gone?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the concerning parts for me with the timeline is people aren't necessarily being dishonest when they're giving an account of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us, like, I can't tell you what time I ate breakfast unless it's something that happens every single day. Like, you don't necessarily have that close of a relationship with time. And I think that that could cause a lot of people to go down different holes, right? Like, well, she's last seen on the balcony and then she's gone 15 minutes later. Then the only explanation is that she jumped off the ship. Is it possible that that timeline was off? Or is it possible that something happened in that small window that would change everything, right? Unfortunately, we don't have someone else that saw her. But I mean, I'm willing to bet if we would have stopped the ship like we should have and interviewed every person like the investigation I think should have done, then I think you'd have a lot more people seeing her either go in and not come out or seeing her come out. So
Because
that
if one person saw her getting in that elevator with Yellow, I guarantee you there were a handful of others that saw that too.
I also want, can we go track down this witness that is saying that they saw her in the elevator with Yellow? What was she wearing? Was she still wearing that cover that was left? Was she not wearing that? That might confirm the time difference because the brother saw her wearing that outfit and then
Mhm.
maybe she's now wearing a different outfit. So that could help build up where she potentially went. Also, wasn't that girl the witness with another person? What's her account?
No, I trust me, I had all kinds of questions going on there. And like I said, if there was one, there was probably 10. And do you know that they actually sued the cruise line? And this was back in the like late 90s as well for wrongful death or early 2000s. I actually want to go pull that lawsuit and read it. And they lost. They lost. And that to me was one of the most disturbing things of the whole case. And I don't know that you put this on the captain per se, or maybe this was the procedure and protocol coming down from, Caribbean Cruises headquarters. I don't think it was the right thing to do from a humanity perspective whatsoever. But no, I
Well,
don't want to
here's the
say this is
problem.
all the captain.
Here's the problem. They lost. So does it not change?
That was my thing, is like, is this still the protocol that if you're about to embark, or you're about to come to an island, or you're going to get off the ship, debark? Like, I believe she was on that boat. I believe she was on that boat when they docked.
She may have been, yeah. And the thing is though is the protocol doesn't make sense to me. It just, and I know it was a long time ago. I know there wasn't cameras. I know things weren't heavily filmed, but I don't know that it's fair to say that back then like-minded families who have children of their own would be so concerned with shutting the ship down for a couple of hours, not letting anyone offshore until the ship was thoroughly checked
Mhm.
so that you could figure this out and in doing a true investigation.
When they did the massive cruise search, how many people were looking? How many employees was that? Did people know that they were looking for a specific woman that, you
Yeah.
know,
And
did they know they were looking for potential criminal activity? Like, if someone tells me that somebody was kidnapped, and again, I'm just throwing, discussions out there, but that to me is a lot more than somebody went out to lunch with their friend and we're not sure if she went shopping after and now we can't find her. Like, those are two different extremes. So when they're looking through the ship, did they let people understand this is kind of like a life and death situation?
yeah, and the thing is that I don't know, maybe that guy just candidly wasn't credible to me. But when you're like,
Oh, the guy, yeah,
We
same.
did a full search and no corner was left unturned. I'm like, well, what does that even mean?
What does that
What does
include? I
that
literally
mean?
wrote that on a post-it. What
Yeah,
does
so like
include?
you told the crew, this crew takes this hallway, this crew takes that hallway. Well, if there's that procedure in place, why wasn't it happening sooner? And why isn't there a procedure to investigate what is going on? Like, that just
And are
doesn't.
we just looking in the cabins, or are we looking in all of the common areas, or the actual levels that are for, the employees? Like, what does this mean when it says we looked in every nook and cranny? To me, that was okay. We popped our head down some hallways and we asked people to make sure that there was no missing person in their room, right? That's to
Yeah.
me the way I took it. I'm like, that
Well, yeah, and I took like,
violates
you
so
definitely
many.
didn't do anything wrong. Okay. Well,
Yeah, let's not stop the water slide or the pool party to make sure that nobody has seen her. Like that was crazy to me.
yeah.
And I would love to know what the procedure is now if this were to happen on a cruise ship today. Because I could only
I'm
hope.
willing to bet it's not much better. I mean, I think that there are some stronger advantages now with video, with people having cell phones, people record stuff even if they shouldn't, pictures, things like that. And that's one of the things is that it sounds like there wasn't that many real pieces of evidence. Like the key card is a huge thing,
Yeah.
right? Because you could see her going in, but you can't necessarily see her going out. Why don't you need a key card to go out to a common area? If you don't need a key card to go out to a common area, why doesn't the common area have a camera?
Well, and nowadays a lot of the key cards, are put on a bracelet. Like we just
Right.
recently, my mom and dad and my family, we went to Cabo, and it was the coolest thing. It was this almost literally like a little beaded bracelet, and the sensor was this big, but that you had to use that to almost get through any door in the resort, pretty much for anything, including like restrooms. And so they would give even the little kids, had a key card. And I thought this is really, really, really smart because you don't have to worry about people not having it because it's on them. And it really does make sure that everybody is protected and
Yeah.
could be found.
And I don't know. So a lot of this stuff, especially I think Kristen and I get this in our family law cases that after a certain amount of years, when you're trying to do something, you can't do the things that you want to do because you aren't actually around the evidence. But and I don't know if this would be confidential or not, but why don't we have a list of all of the people that were on that cruise? Why
Mm-hmm.
don't we have their first and last names? Why don't we have the ability to at least contact them? Why isn't the cruise ship putting out a bulletin about it? Hey, if you want to come forward, certainly you can't make people talk, but have we talked to everyone on the cruise ship? And if we haven't, can we get that information? I get it. Probably not now. But those would be questions that I would be asking if I were really looking into trying to figure out this case. If one person's there, like the eyewitness that saw him going to the elevator, who was that person on the ship with? Who did
Mm-hmm.
that person meet? What were those people's names? Can we track those people down? Do those people want to talk? Do those people have friends or family that were on the ship that could talk?
Yeah,
There's
and ask
definitely
them
more
10
info
years
out there.
later too. Somebody might have been young and didn't want to talk back then, and now it's like, oh man, it's been 25 years. I actually knew more. Like, have we asked any of these witnesses anything like over the years? Is there anything else you remember? Is there anything else that, might have been triggered over the years that you recall or recollect?
Yeah, and I do want to go back. I do want to go talk to that guy that was next to him too. That was actually in the film. So
The
he's like
one,
willing to talk. That was like
not
sitting.
the cruise director guy, right? Like the one that was
No,
on
the
that.
guy that's like sitting in the room saying that he essentially travels alone and he knew who she was
Oh,
and
yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
here on the
Okay.
balcony. Like, does that guy have other people that he met on the cruise that
Oh, I'm,
could
I'm
have
sure.
identified her? Like, can we start there and work backwards? But as far as like going back to this initial theory in part one, and in our next episodes, we'll go through the other two parts. But in the first sort of developed theory, you see this idea that maybe she fell. And Kristen, you mentioned that it was up to here, or that it was pretty much a very high guardrail. Do you think there is any possibility that that happened, that she fell?
I mean, there's always a small possibility that something could have happened, but the way that I'm envisioning this, so they're saying that she had 7 drinks on the tab. Now, for her, I don't think that that was any crazy amount because she is someone that she
No.
appeared to drink quite a bit, right? For me, that that would put me in bed the next day.
For me
But
now it would, but I
yeah,
mean,
but not
not when
23
you're
in
in
college when you're
college.
well trained.
Yeah.
Um, but we also don't know if she was getting drink spot, on someone else's tab that may just not been on hers. But the only way that I would see her truly falling over is if, like, I don't know, she moved the table, was standing on top of the table. I don't know, crazy or I don't know, dancing or something. But I find it pretty hard to wrap my head around that.
So do I, especially with the proximity to shore. So I
Yeah.
know that someone had mentioned she was talking about, oh, well, maybe she jumped off because she said she was going to jump off and swim to shore.
Oh, I saw
I don't
that too.
I don't find it credible that saying that would translate to her doing it. But what I do take from that is she appears to believe that she was a confident swimmer.
Hmm.
And if you fell, I don't know how high up she fell, but if you really think that she fell, it would be possible then for her to potentially get to shore based on the proximity of shore. So
Yeah.
it just doesn't seem like it adds up. It seems like an easy way to ignore the fact that foul play would equal liability to a cruise ship, especially if a crew member was part of it. And so it doesn't track to me. If she was so drunk that she shouldn't be left alone, her brother, who seems to care for her as much as a brother could, I think would have noticed that, would have reported it, would have felt bad about leaving her on the balcony. Like, it sounded like they were having brother sister talk, and she's, like, so that just doesn't track when somebody who, again, loves her that much is repeating that. He doesn't have a reason to not explain her level of intoxication. He wouldn't have a reason. If something like that could have happened, like, well, then why wouldn't they be running to the ship saying someone's overboard, overboard? Maybe they pay attention to that one, because it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, I mean, the timelines are right, but I mean, it's my assumption the sun was up, right? Like when the dad, so I, it's my perception, and I guess we could go back and see what if it was daylight or not. But if it was 6 when he started looking, absent it being winter months, the sun would likely be out. And I mean, we're talking about that 25-30 minute period, provided that the timelines are right. I think that's one of the biggest issues in the case is really not having the concrete understanding of when her brother, I think it seems pretty reliable of when he went back to the room. I do not believe that he would have left her there if she was intoxicated to a point that she likely could have jumped overboard or fell off.
Don't
I don't
believe it
think
for a
he
second.
Yeah, I don't think he would have left her um you know, intoxicated alone as a woman with a bunch of, people that they don't know if he believed that she was in harm's way. I don't think that would happen whatsoever.
She is spotted having fun, spotted drinking, spotted hanging out with her brother, spotted by her dad. These don't appear to be, I mean, I certainly don't know her mental health
Okay, wait,
or
wait,
know
stop that because
her.
that's what I want to ask you. Okay, so that was the other. So number one was she fell off, not in any specific order. Another theory is that she committed suicide. What are your thoughts on that?
I really struggle to believe that based on the information provided, right?
Correct. That was in the series, correct? And
Right.
outside
So
research.
I mean, I know there was some suggestion of it. I know there was a couple little sentences which made you kind of think, like, oh, is that possible? And I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly not qualified to determine someone who I don't know's mental health, but the evidence and her behavior from what was presented didn't present to me to be something other than a young woman that was very happy to go on a cruise and enjoy that time with her family. So it didn't track to me. And it just seemed to me like a way to ignore the otherwise extremely critical, time sensitive leads that I'm sure were totally followed by her family to the absolute extent that they could. But I mean, I think the people around them failed her, is what
No,
I think.
I agree. I don't think she, again, same as you, is these are my assumptions, these are my opinions, these are my beliefs. These are not, I cannot get in Amy Bradley's head, nor am I an expert to determine her mental health at this time 25 years ago. But based on the information that I did on my own, kind of outside of the documentary as well, just, going down rabbit holes, she was an athlete. She seemed to very much be a determined young woman. She was graduating college. She had come out to her family. So she was appeared to be probably more comfortable in her own skin at that point in her life than she probably had been in years prior. So I just think a lot of her struggles that she may have, gone through with identity and whatnot, she seemed to be at a place where she was graduating college, getting a new job, and had worked her way through those struggles.
And her family, and I take them as credible, recited how close they were.
Yes.
And I believe that more than
No,
any
I believe it
other
too.
average Joe. I mean, you know your sister, and I like you can't 100% rule anything out, but that part, it's like if you knew your sibling and people are like, yeah, they might have done this, and you're like, yeah, no. Like I do believe as a family member that is also close, that you would likely be able to make that call better than the rest. And maybe I'm
No, I
wrong,
agree.
but like that just for me was not the most viable theory based on these cases.
Okay, so they set to dock in Curacao, and now they already know Amy's missing. And I think by this time had been 6 o'clock in the morning. I think they docked mid afternoon, and this is where it starts of one unanswered question after another. And the fact that these parents were put on a plane to go back home I think it was like within 48 hours, and we'll call you when we find out something or when we find her. Like that was mind blowing to me. I don't know that I would have left the country. I probably would have had to been kicked out of the country, to be honest, because that was just like I don't that left me with, oh, this investigation's already done before they even start. Like they've already presumed that this wasn't an accident or this was an intentional, jump off the boat. But I think they had already thrown in the towel.
So do I. And I don't think they picked up the towel.
No, you're right. You're right. It was just like, wait, how is this possible? Like, I even had to go back and watch parts again because sometimes when I'm documentaries, like my mind will start going off and analyzing one of the issues I just watched while I'm continuing to listen, watch. And I do that often. So then I have to go back and, my husband's like, why are you always replaying segments? I'm like, oh, because I wasn't listening, or I wasn't watching as intently. And being a lawyer, you can catch on words like and, but, if, only if. So
Mm-hmm.
you start really analyzing what they did not do.
Yeah.
They truly said, we can't find her. Go back to your hometown. And yeah, we'll let you know if she pops up.
Well, my question is, what's in the elevator? Where does that lead?
I believe they were saying it was going to like the
The
sun deck or
club.
something. Oh, the club. Okay, you're right. Yeah, the club.
Where does it lead? Is there a back way out of that? Is it go to like the
Is there anything else on that floor?
storage area?
Yeah.
Is there an emergency exit? Is there a dinghy boat, the entry to a small dinghy boat? Like, where does that place lead?
1,000%. And that is, I am not sure, obviously, what absolutely happened here, but in my gut, I truly believe she was on that ship when either, I mean, within a few hours of them docking or them docking. I believe she was on that ship at that point.
So,
And I think had they done a thorough search, had they stopped and let everyone know that we had a missing woman, a missing family member, and that there was a potential, criminal act that may have been committed, I think if they would have done all of these things, that there is a far greater likelihood that more than one person would have saw her.
I agree. And again, our heart goes out to the families as we sort of go through this case. It's just heart wrenching, and we really hope that you're able to get some answers.
Yes, and if you have not watched this documentary, it is on Netflix. It is a multi-part breakdown. In each episode, it is going over the different elements of the case. I really enjoyed the one that was kind of sharing Amy's life, who she was back then, the type of person she was. She seemed like she was the life of the party, like you really wanted to be with, be out there hanging out with her. She was very, very involved with her family, which is very special watching it. And I think that's what the hardest part is that I think as a parent not knowing whether or not your child had passed or is still here, like it's the fear of unknown is often significantly worse than being able to process the the trauma. But we're not here to solve it. We are here to talk about what could have happened, where did it go, what could the cruise ship have done, is there any changes in the protocol, because Amy Bradley is still missing. And we want to hear from you guys. If you have any facts that you want to share with us or that you want to analyze, please email us at info@custodyqueens.com. This is Sam and Kristen from Queens Off the Clock. And we thoroughly enjoyed rolling up our sleeves and talking to you about, this case and the first part. In the next couple episodes that we will be putting out, we will go through part 2 and part 3 as well. And let's be prepared to talk about the sketchy sightings. I mean, they are sketchy.
And that's coming
And let's
next.
talk about the credibility of these people and these witnesses. And I am grateful for Netflix because honestly, I had never heard of this story until it showed up in my top 10 must watch. And I do believe there were other documentaries that were done. So I'm actually going to go back and watch those and compare and contrast to make sure that, it's all aligned. But get ready to spill the tea with us and to think outside the box.
Until next time.